There's something most men completely miss about what actually draws a woman's attention and keeps it. It's not about how much money you display. It's not about rattling off accomplishments. It's not even about being the funniest or most charming person in the room. What separates men who genuinely capture a woman's interest from men who get politely tolerated is something far more subtle and far more powerful. It's the ability to make her feel genuinely seen rather than simply observed. It's knowing how to ask questions that reach past the surface conversations she's exhausted by. It's understanding that attraction isn't built through impressive monologues, but through creating space where she feels safe to reveal herself. Where are you watching from, by the way? Drop your city or country below because I'm Isabella and I want to know where you all are tuning in from. Think about what most women experience constantly. They're looked at. Their appearance gets commented on. They receive compliments about their physical features, their outfit choices, their style. But how often are they genuinely seen? How often does someone ask them questions that make them pause, think deeply, maybe smile slightly, and respond with something like, "Huh? Nobody's ever asked me that before." That moment right there, that brief pause where she's processing something unexpected, that's where genuine intrigue begins. That's how you create psychological tension without any physical contact. That's how you earn authentic respect without having to prove anything. That's how you plant the seed of desire in her subconscious without ever explicitly mentioning desire at all. Here's what you need to understand. Fundamentally, attraction operates on two levels simultaneously, physical and psychological. And while the physical component gets most of the attention, the psychological component is what creates lasting pull. A woman becomes genuinely drawn to a man when she feels emotionally safe to express herself freely, when she feels curious about who he actually is beneath his surface presentation, when she senses depth that most men don't possess. And that kind of magnetic connection doesn't start with telling her how beautiful she is or what you do for a living. It starts with asking her something she wasn't expecting to be asked, but not just any random question. These 7 questions are specifically designed to spark genuine thought. Open emotional windows. She usually keeps closed and make her experience something different in your presence, something she rarely encounters, something that stays with her. So if you're exhausted by conversations that lead nowhere, if you're done being the forgettable guy who gets a polite response and nothing more, if you're ready to be the man who leaves an actual impression on a woman's mind and not just her text message history, then stay with me because by the end of this breakdown, you'll have 7 psychological keys that unlock genuine female attention, stir real curiosity, and ignite something that surface-level small talk never could. Every man has at some point found himself in conversation with a woman he's drawn to, trying to navigate that space between being interesting and being too much, between showing interest and seeming desperate, between creating connection and coming across as interview mode awkward. He wants to be memorable, not just in that immediate moment, but later when she's alone at night, replaying the conversation in her mind, wondering what it was about him that felt genuinely different from everyone else she talks to. The challenge is that most men approach women like they're pitching themselves, performing a version of themselves they think she wants to see, reciting rehearsed stories and polished one-liners. And by doing that, they unknowingly place themselves in the exact same category as every other man who's approached her that way. Predictable, surface level, forgettable. But you're not here to impress her with manufactured charm or rehearsed confidence. You're here to invite her actual essence forward, to create space where she can show up as herself rather than as the polished version she presents to the world. Because the man who can pull her mind out of autopilot mode, who can bypass the scripted responses she gives to 90% of the people she meets, that's the man she remembers long after the conversation ends. That's the man she finds herself thinking about. That's the man who earns both her respect and her genuine interest. So how do you actually accomplish that? You don't do it by talking about yourself more. You don't do it by listing your achievements or showing off knowledge. You do it by doing something most men never dare to do. You ask her questions that genuinely unlock something in her. Because a powerful question doesn't just start a conversation. It creates an emotional experience. It demonstrates depth. It signals that you're a man of genuine intention and presence and psychological awareness. And when a woman registers that quality in you, when she feels both emotionally safe and mentally stimulated, you become something rare to her. You're no longer just another name in her phone or another face she met briefly. You become the exception, the slow burn spark she didn't anticipate, but suddenly can't stop thinking about. I'm going to give you 7 specific questions. They're subtle, they're disarming, they're elegant, and they're all rooted in psychological principles that create genuine attraction. Not by manipulating emotions, but by awakening them authentically. These aren't job interview questions. They're not corny pickup attempts. They're designed to make her lean in slightly, lower her guard naturally, and open a door in her mind that most men will never even approach. So if you're the kind of man who values genuine depth over cheap tactics, real connection over manufactured control, authentic presence over performance, stay with me. Because the moment you ask these questions with calm composure, with genuine stillness, with quiet confidence, she'll feel something shift in how she perceives you. She'll experience something real. Question 1. What's something you believed strongly 5 years ago that you don't believe anymore? This isn't just conversation filler. It's a direct pathway into her personal evolution. When you ask a woman this question, you're subtly communicating, I want to understand how life has shaped who you are. Not just what you currently believe, but how you've changed and grown. Most men stay trapped in surface-level small talk about jobs and hobbies and weekend plans. This question immediately goes deeper. It requires introspection. It makes her reflect on how her worldview has shifted. Maybe because of relationships that ended, betrayals that changed her, personal growth that transformed her perspective, maybe even spiritual awakening that reframed everything. When you ask this, you're not just another man making conversation. You become a mirror reflecting back her own depth. And women are drawn to men who can reflect their complexity back to them. Ask this when the conversation has naturally slowed, when there's space to think, not when things are rushed or crowded. And when she answers, don't immediately jump in with your own response or opinion. Let the silence exist for a moment. Let her feel safe to go even deeper if she wants to. She'll remember that moment specifically because most people talk to be heard, but you ask to genuinely understand. Question 2, when do you feel most fully yourself? This question bypasses logical surface topics and goes straight into emotional territory. You're asking her about the times when she feels most aligned, most free, most authentically her without performance or pretense. Her answer might genuinely surprise you. It might be something like dancing alone in her apartment, or being completely absorbed in creative work, or sitting in complete silence watching sunrise, or having deep conversations at 2 in the morning. Whatever her answer is, you're discovering where her soul actually breathes freely. And once she shares that with you, she begins unconsciously associating you with that feeling of authentic freedom and aliveness. That's how attraction develops organically, through shared emotional anchors and associations. And here's the critical distinction that most men miss. You're not asking to manipulate her response or steer the conversation somewhere strategic. You're asking because you're genuinely curious about what moves her at a core level. And when a man guides her into that kind of honest self-reflection, she doesn't forget him easily. Question 3. If nothing was stopping you, no fear, no financial constraints, no judgment from anyone, what would you be doing right now? This is what I call a permission question. You're handing her a blank canvas and saying, show me the version of yourself that the world rarely sees. Every woman carries suppressed dreams, ambitions she's afraid to voice, desires she's learned to minimize. And when you create space for her to talk about those hidden aspirations without judgment or skepticism, you're not just a man anymore in her perception. You become a rare escape, a safe place where she can express what she usually keeps hidden. She'll feel a sense of liberation in your presence. And emotional freedom creates powerful emotional attraction. This question works best in moments that already have some vulnerability present. Maybe after you've already had 1 or 2 deeper exchanges, maybe in a quieter setting where she feels comfortable. Look directly at her when you ask this. Let your eye contact communicate that you're not judging whatever she's about to say. You're genuinely listening. Because most men offer opinions and advice, but you're offering something far more valuable. You're offering permission to dream out loud. Question 4. What kind of connection do you think you actually deserve? This one is psychologically powerful, but needs to be timed carefully. You're not just asking about relationships or romance generally. You're asking about her sense of self-worth, about whether she believes she deserves the depth of connection she actually wants. You'll see immediately in her response how she values herself, how past experiences have shaped her expectations, whether she's settled for less than she wanted. If she responds with, "I don't know," or "I've never really thought about that," don't rush to fill the silence or correct her thinking or offer reassurance. Just maintain calm, steady eye contact and let her sit with the reflection. Women are constantly approached by men who want access to their body or their time or their attention. But when a man demonstrates genuine interest in understanding her heart and her emotional world, it creates a completely different kind of impact. It disrupts her pattern recognition in the best possible way. Question 5. What's something you wish people understood about you that they usually don't? This is where connection moves from interesting to genuinely intimate. Because every woman, regardless of how confident or put together she appears externally, feels fundamentally misunderstood in some significant way. This question gives her permission to reveal that, to show you the invisible layers most people never see. She might say something like, "People assume I'm cold, but I'm actually just protective of my energy." Or, "I seem really social, but crowds actually drain me quickly." Or, "Everyone thinks I have it all together, but I'm struggling more than it looks." Whatever she reveals, she's sharing a private truth, showing you a dimension of herself that most people never earn access to. And because you asked, because you created that space, you become the person she now associates with emotional safety and genuine understanding. This is attraction at its deepest level. Not loud, not performative, but profoundly personal. Question 6. If you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? This isn't just a question. It's an emotional portal. You're inviting her to travel backwards through her own timeline to speak to a version of herself that still exists somewhere in her psychological landscape. You'll hear about regrets she carries, lessons she learned the hard way, moments that shaped who she became. And when she speaks about this, you're seeing not just the woman sitting in front of you, but the girl she used to be, the experiences that formed her, the pain that taught her. Here's what makes this so powerful. When a woman feels like a man can see all of her, the past that shaped her, the present she's navigating, the potential she's growing into, she bonds at a level most men never reach. You're no longer just someone she talked to briefly. You become woven into her process of self-standing. Question 7. What does freedom mean to you specifically? This is the question that most men would never think to ask because it seems too abstract or philosophical. But that's exactly why it's powerful. Everyone uses the word freedom, but what it actually means varies dramatically from person to person. For some women, freedom means financial independence. For others, it means emotional space to be themselves. For others, it means escaping expectations that have confined them. When you ask her to define freedom in her own terms, you're asking her to articulate what she's actually moving toward in life, what she's trying to create or protect or achieve. And in her answer, you'll discover what truly motivates her beneath all the surface goals and daily routines. This question works particularly well in quieter, reflective moments, not in loud, crowded environments, but in spaces where genuine thinking can happen. And when she answers, you'll have insight into her that most people in her life don't possess. Each of these 7 questions carries genuine power, but only when asked with authentic presence, with stillness, with sincere curiosity. Don't ask to impress her or to seem deep or philosophical. Ask because you genuinely want to understand who she actually is beneath the surface she shows the world. And when you do that consistently, you become unforgettable. Not because of your physical appearance, not because of your financial status, not because of rehearsed charm, but because you were the rare man who made her feel genuinely seen and understood. So here's the fundamental truth that most men never grasp. It's not the expensive car or the perfect physique or the scripted, clever line that makes a woman feel genuinely drawn to you at a level that matters. It's presence, it's depth, It's the kind of calm, grounded, masculine energy that isn't loud or performative, but is absolutely unforgettable. The kind that listens with complete attention. The kind that maintains eye contact and asks questions nobody else thinks to ask. Because when you ask these 7 questions, you're not just making conversation. You're guiding her through a psychological unfolding of her truest self. And by facilitating that process, you become associated with that self-revelation. That's the power of masculine stillness combined with emotional intelligence. But here's where it gets serious. These questions aren't tricks or hacks or manipulation tactics. They're doorways. And the moment you ask them, you need to be ready for what's on the other side. Because if she genuinely opens up, you must be steady, present, grounded. Because women aren't attracted to men who simply want them. They're drawn to men who understand them, sometimes even better than they understand themselves. And when she realizes that your words don't just occupy her mind, but echo in her heart, she'll think about you when she's alone later. She'll remember these questions when she's staring out a window long after your conversation ended. She'll wonder why you made her feel so seen, so understood, so safe. And the answer won't be some grand gesture or expensive experience. It will be you, the grounded masculine presence, who chose to ask something deeper. If this resonated with you, drop a comment below. I read all of them and want to know which question hit differently for you. And subscribe if you haven't yet, because I'm consistently breaking down psychology and connection in ways that go past surface-level dating advice. Take care of yourselves.